first time Michael asked me for money, I almost didn't recognize the person sitting in front of me. This was the guy everyone thought had figured life out, the guy with the nice car, the expensive watch, the apartment in the area everyone wanted to live in, the guy who always looked like he was moving forward while everyone else was still trying to catch up. 10 years earlier, if you asked anyone who was winning between Michael and me, nobody would have picked me. They would have picked him. And honestly, I would have agreed. Because from the outside, it looked obvious. Michael was climbing. I was standing still. But what nobody could see was that while Michael was building a life everyone could admire, I was building one that could survive. And years later, when life finally tested both of us, something happened that completely changed how I understood success. Because the person who looked like he was losing was the only one who was actually free. Let's go back to the beginning. We were both in our 20s, both ambitious, both working hard, both trying to create a better future. We weren't lazy. We weren't different from everyone else. We both wanted the same things: a comfortable life, a sense of security, the feeling that our hard work was actually leading somewhere. But we had completely different ideas of what progress looked like. I believed progress was something nobody could see. Michael believed progress was something everyone should notice. And that difference changed everything. Every morning, we both walked into the same kind of office, same coffee machines, same meetings, same deadlines, same pressure. But while I was thinking about how to keep more of what I earned, Michael was thinking about what his next raise could buy. And honestly, I understood it, because that's how most people are taught to think. You work harder, you make more money. Then you upgrade your life. A better apartment, a better car, a better phone, a better lifestyle. And for a while, it feels like you're winning, because every upgrade feels like proof that you're moving forward. Every new purchase feels like a reward for the sacrifices you made. And nobody can blame you for wanting to enjoy the results of your hard work. The problem is, nobody tells you how easy it is for your lifestyle to grow faster than your income. A raise that should create freedom can quietly become another reason you need more money. You don't feel richer, you just become more expensive to maintain. Michael got a promotion 3 years into our careers. Everyone celebrated, and they should have. He worked hard for it. He deserved recognition. But a few months later, he showed up with a new car. Not an outrageous car, not something completely impossible, just expensive enough to make people notice. And people noticed. They gathered around it in the parking lot. They asked questions. They complimented him. They talked about how far he had come. And Michael stood there smiling. For a moment, I think he felt like he had finally arrived. And maybe he had, at least according to the scoreboard everyone was watching. Because that's the strange thing about success. Sometimes the things that make you look successful have very little to do with whether you actually are. Meanwhile, I was still driving an older car, living below my means, putting money away, making choices that nobody applauded. And that was the hardest part, because nobody celebrates the things you don't buy. Nobody notices the vacation you decide not to take. Nobody compliments you for avoiding debt. Nobody sees the sacrifices you make when nobody is watching. The world celebrates the visible results, not the invisible decisions that create them. And for a while, that made me question myself. Because when everyone around you appears to be moving ahead, it's easy to wonder if you are the one making the wrong choices. I would look at Michael and think, maybe he understands something I don't. Maybe I'm being too careful. Maybe I'm missing out. Those thoughts are dangerous, because comparison has a way of making you forget your own goals. You start chasing someone else's definition of success. You stop asking, what kind of life do I actually want? And you start asking, what will make people think I'm doing well? That was the trap I almost fell into. Until one ordinary Tuesday changed the way I looked at everything. The turning point didn't come from a financial crisis. It came from a question. A simple question that bothered me more than I expected. What happens if this is it? It happened after I received a bonus at work. A good amount of money. The kind of money that should make you excited. The kind of money that should make you feel like you're finally moving forward. But when it hit my account, I didn't feel excited. I just felt tired, because I realized something. I had spent years chasing the next milestone, the next raise, the next achievement, the next thing that would finally make me feel like I was ahead. But there was always another thing, always another level, always another person to compare myself with. That night, I sat down and looked at my finances differently. Not emotionally, not based on what I wanted people to think, just honestly. And I realized something uncomfortable. If I kept living the same way, I could spend decades exchanging my time for money. 40 years of waking up, going to work, waiting for the next paycheck, and doing everything possible just to maintain a life that required me to keep running. The scary part wasn't that I might fail. The scary part was that I might succeed
At the wrong game.
That thought stayed with me. Because what was the point of reaching the top of a ladder?
If the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall.
I started noticing things I had ignored before. I noticed people who looked successful, but always seemed stressed. People who earned more money every year, but somehow never felt ahead. People who upgraded everything, except their peace of mind. Then I remembered someone at work, an older man. He wasn't flashy, he didn't have the newest car, he never talked about expensive purchases, but he always seemed calm. While everyone else was chasing the next promotion, the next title, the next thing that would prove they were successful. He seemed completely comfortable with where he was. One day I asked him how. I asked him how he stayed so relaxed while everyone else was constantly trying to get ahead. He smiled and said something I never forgot. Most people spend their lives trying to look successful. Very few spend their lives becoming successful. That sentence stayed with me because I realized I had been watching the wrong people. I was comparing my behind the scenes
To someone else's highlight reel.
and from that day forward, I decided to play a different game. The problem was, nobody around me understood the game I was playing. And that would become the hardest part. The hardest part about building something invisible is that nobody knows you're building anything. For years, it looked like I was falling behind. Friends would ask questions. What are you waiting for? When are you going to upgrade your car? When are you going to buy a house? And I never really had an answer that satisfied them, because the truth was difficult to explain. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was trying to create choices. But choices don't look impressive while you're creating them. Nobody takes pictures of discipline. Nobody celebrates delayed gratification. Nobody sees the decisions you make when nobody is watching. At dinner, people talked about promotions, new purchases, trips, investments they heard about online, and I sat there quietly. Not because I was jealous, but because I knew something they didn't. A person can look successful and still be one emergency away from panic. And a person can look ordinary while quietly building security. But society only rewards what it can see. Nobody sees the savings account. Nobody sees the discipline. Nobody sees the opportunities you create by saying no today. There were moments I questioned myself, especially when people my age started hitting milestones. Someone bought a beautiful house. Everyone celebrated. Someone posted pictures from an expensive vacation. Everyone commented. Someone bought a luxury car. Everyone noticed. And I looked at my own life and wondered, am I actually being smart, or am I just afraid to live? That question is harder than people realize, because building something for the future can sometimes feel like you're missing out on the present. You start wondering if the sacrifices are worth it. You start wondering if everyone else understands something you don't. You start wondering if maybe you should stop being so careful and just enjoy the moment like everyone else seems to be doing. But then I reminded myself, the things that create freedom usually don't look impressive while they are being built. A foundation doesn't look exciting. It sits underground. Nobody sees it. Nobody takes pictures of it. Nobody walks past a building and says, look at that amazing foundation. But when the storm comes, it's the reason the building stays standing, and eventually,
The storm came.
it started with a simple email, a meeting request, a conversation nobody wants to have. The kind of moment where you already know something is wrong before anyone says a word. The company was cutting positions, and both Michael and I were affected. Suddenly, everything changed. The same workplace where people once celebrated promotions, the same office where people compared salaries and achievements, now felt completely different. The titles didn't matter anymore. The recognition didn't matter anymore. The things people spent years chasing could disappear in a single conversation. The car, the image, the lifestyle, none of it could protect you. Because when your income disappears, the question is no longer how successful do you look? The question becomes, how much freedom did you actually build? And that was when the difference between Michael and me became clear. Michael needed everything to continue exactly as before. The payments, the expenses, the lifestyle, the expectations. Because when your life is built around maintaining an image, slowing down feels impossible. He needed to find another job quickly. Not because it was the perfect opportunity. Not because it was what he truly wanted. But because he needed the paycheck. He needed to keep everything moving. He needed to protect the life everyone thought he had. And I understood that pressure. Because when people think you're winning, admitting you're struggling can feel impossible. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the problem itself. It's admitting that the version of success everyone admired wasn't as secure as it looked. I went a different direction. I moved back home temporarily. I cut expenses. I sold things I loved. I made decisions that looked like failure from the outside. And I won't pretend it felt good. It didn't. There is nothing comfortable about admitting you need to reset. There is nothing easy about watching people make assumptions about your life. There is nothing simple about letting go of things you worked hard for. Because when people only see the surface, they don't see the reasons behind your decisions. They just see the outcome. They see someone who stepped backward. They don't see someone who created room to move forward. But there was one difference between Michael and me. I had time. I had options. I could breathe. I could make decisions based on what was right instead of what was urgent. And that difference changed everything. Because for the first time, I understood what wealth was really about. It wasn't about proving that you were successful. It wasn't about having the newest things. It wasn't about making other people impressed with your life. It was about having the ability to choose, the ability to wait, the ability to walk away, the ability to handle uncertainty without immediately falling apart. Years later, Michael and I sat together and talked about everything. There was no competition anymore, no comparison, no need to prove who had made better choices. Just two people who had taken different paths. And I realized something. Michael wasn't a bad person. He wasn't careless. He wasn't irresponsible. He was simply playing the same game most people are taught to play: earn more, spend more, upgrade more, repeat. And honestly, that game is easy to fall into because the rewards are immediate. People notice, people compliment you, people assume you're successful. And for a while, it feels good, Ms. The things that make you look successful can sometimes become the things that trap you. A bigger paycheck creates bigger expectations. A nicer lifestyle creates bigger obligations. A more expensive life requires more of your time just to maintain it. Eventually, people can become trapped by the very life they worked so hard to create. And that's the part most people never see, because from the outside, everything can look perfect. The pictures look perfect. The car looks perfect. The house looks perfect. The lifestyle looks perfect. But nobody sees the pressure behind it. Nobody sees the stress. Nobody sees the fear of losing everything. Nobody sees the nights spent wondering if the life you built is actually yours, or if you're just working to protect an image. Meanwhile, the person who looked boring, the person who seemed behind, the person who wasn't showing off, they may have been quietly building something much more valuable. Freedom, the ability to say no, the ability to wait, the ability to walk away, the ability to make decisions without desperation controlling every move. That is the kind of wealth nobody notices. But it is the kind of wealth that changes your entire life. Because money was never just about buying things. The greatest thing money can buy is control over your own time. The quiet winner rarely looks like a winner at the beginning, because real progress is often invisible. It happens in bank accounts nobody sees, in sacrifices nobody applauds, in decisions nobody understands, and that's why so many people quit too early. They look around, they see everyone else celebrating, they see the vacations, the promotions, the new cars, the bigger homes, and they assume they are behind. But they don't know what is happening behind those closed doors. They don't know who is stressed, who is struggling, who is trapped by the lifestyle they created. They only see the surface, and the surface is usually the least important part. The goal was never to look like you made it. The goal was to actually make it. So if you're in a season where nobody understands your choices, if people think you're moving too slowly, if you're building something that nobody else can see, remember this. The scoreboard everyone is watching might not be the scoreboard that actually matters. Because sometimes the person who appears to be losing the race is the only person who chose where the finish line was. And years from now, when the noise fades, when the comparisons disappear, when everyone stops looking around to see who is ahead, the person who built freedom quietly will realize they were never behind at all.